can't wait to get my copy.
I ordered a book from Seth.
Yeah,
Finally, I
yeah,
even had trouble with Amazon. You know, if you don't have all the latest gadgets and everything is working right, when everything's working right, it's simple to do things today. But when one little thing isn't, I
it's
had to
true. Don is probably going to come in and tell me that we're live in a moment. So,
I'm sorry, I was muted. We're live.
well, hello everyone on this April 11th, 2021. Bienvenidos, bonjour. I am just over the moon to be with you today. And there's a little extra shine about today's reading that not even I don't think our readers know about. Well, I'm Sandra Yannone. I'm the host of Cultivating Voices Live Poetry and also the author of Boats for Women from Salmon Poetry. I want to give a special shout to my friends today in Ireland because today, April 11th, is the 109th anniversary of the day that Titanic landed in Cove, Ireland, then known as Queenstown. And those of you who know me know I'm a bit of a Titaniac. And 9 years ago today was my very first trip to Ireland. I disembarked for that 100th anniversary celebration in Cove, Ireland. And so I've been thinking a lot about that today as we've been getting ready to gather for this really amazing reading. Well, again, welcome for our new books showcase. Here we are on the cusp of spring. I just got my Johnson & Johnson vaccine, 1 dose yesterday. And again, I am thrilled to welcome all of our poets joining us today, our featured poets, and those of us in our audiences on Zoom and watching us live from Facebook. Thank you for being here today. A little bit about Cultivating Voices Live Poetry. We held our very first reading on March 29th, 2020. We've just celebrated our 1-year anniversary in response to the shutdowns of in-person venues everywhere. And we've developed into an international, intersectional, intergenerational reading series and poetry community, now with over 2,500 members worldwide. We alternate weekly readings between our ever popular new book showcase, which you're here to witness and be in absolute splendor with today, and some live open mics with featured poets, and occasionally a special event like our upcoming Sunday special next week, celebrating the poets of Slappering Hall Press, celebrating their 30th anniversary, the premier publisher of chapbooks here in the United States. I'll tell you a little bit more about that reading at the end of today's showcase. Well, now let's move on to today's poets. I'm getting a chill. I'm literally having a chill thinking about the reading that I'm about to experience. Well, our first reader today, I have a little nostalgia. I put in a little personal anecdotes here on Cultivating Voices. My former professor, who is mentioned in Boats for Women, Grace Bauer, joining us from Lincoln, Nebraska. It's always really an honor to be in the room with Grace, and we've had many adventures over the years. Before I introduce her official bio, I want to let those of you here in the Zoom room with us that today, one of you is going to be the recipient, as our gratitude gift, of the book that she co-edited with Julie Kane, Nasty Women Poets, an unapologetic anthology of subversive verse. So chat away, my friends, for your chance to receive that lovely book from Lost Horse Press. Well, Grace Bauer's most recent collection is Unholy Heart, New and Selected Poems from the University of Nebraska Press, only just released just a few weeks ago. Her previous books include Meantime, The Women at the Well, Nowhere All at Once, Retreats and Recognitions, and Beholding Eye, which actually, oh no, I have cafe culture behind me up here. Her poems and essays and stories have appeared in numerous anthologies and journals. It is always a joy to welcome Grace Bauer to Cultivating Voices. Thanks, Grace.
Thank you. And I'm going to change my view here. Okay. Well, I wanted to thank Sandy and Kim and Don for this amazing community that you all have created and are maintaining. And thanks to all of you for who are here to listen to this poetry. I'm thrilled to be reading with these three other terrific women poets. And as Sandy said, my newest book is Unholy Heart, and it's a new and selected poems. So what I thought I would do with my 15 minutes of cultivating fame is I would try to read one poem from each of the books. And I thought, well, I'll just read the title poems and maybe give people a sense of what's going on in each collection. The first collection represented here is my first book, which is called Women at the Well, and it's a book of biblical monologues. And all of the poems in the book are individual women from the Bible speaking, except for this title poem, which is a chorus of women, that idea of women at the well, being met at the well. There's various examples of that, stories both from the Old and New Testaments in the Bible. So this is a collective voice, and I thought it would be a good way to open my reading and also this reading of 4 women poets. So, the women at the well. We enter on cue, bearing prophecy, earthen vessels waiting to be filled, directions to the homes of fathers, brothers, husbands, who always take you in and treat you well. And we are taken in by your telling, tales of how one learns to walk in a foreign land, moments past recalled by one who never watched them happen, plots still being written in which we wait for our names to appear. We hear most when we are least observed, so we are often silent, serving the choicest meats from our larders, the saltiest olives, sweetest breads, red wines from deep in our cellars, where we carefully rinse the bottles clear of dust. We always fill your cup before it is quite empty. We have learned how to keep strangers talking, our own thirsts quenched. This is what keeps us returning each day to the circle of women, drawing buckets from the circle of stone at the center of town. We soak clothing, refresh weary livestock, wet our lips, composing our own stories as we wait for our reflections in the mirror of water to speak what we have always known. So thank you. The second poem I'll read is from the book Retreats and Recognitions. There's really, I guess, 2 title poems, so to speak, in the collection, but I will just read one of them. And I guess there might be the connection here between the first poem is, this is about an incident from my Catholic school education, which is perhaps where all of that biblical kind of stuff came from. And toward the end of my 8th grade education, when I was going to switch from Catholic school to public school, we were sent on a retreat to a Carmelite monastery, and it was, I guess, supposed to sort of strengthen our faith before we went off into the secular educational world. But in my case, it sort of backfired just a little. We were there with girls from other schools where they were far more advanced than we were, let's say. So this is called Retreat. The novices led us in prayer and solemn novenas. Their silence and black habits trailed the cloister's corridors. But we were tired of the protection of Our Lady of Hungary and took off with the St. Joe's crowd, who taught us how to inhale Lucky Strikes, shake aspirins into Cokes for a buzz. A senior from Perpetual Help explained to us what fuck meant, diagramming the details on the back of her missal during a morning high mass. I daydreamed through the offertory and the consecration, wanting to witness the miracle of a boy's body doing what I now knew men did. When the bells chimed, I lined up for communion with the other girls, though the sin I had in mind was surely mortal. I crossed myself as the priest whispered, "Body of Christ." In my unholy heart, I knew there was no turning back. And there, of course, you also see the title of this entire book. Then the next poem I'll read is from my book Beholding Eye, which is another book that's a series of poems, and they're all ekphrastic poems based on either paintings, photographs, images of women in visual art, and some of them are also persona poems, as is this one. And it's based on the work of Dan Arbus, and so she is the presumed speaker in this poem. It's called The Eye of the Beholder. One of the things I find fascinating about Arbus's photographs is that she often would photograph so-called freaks, people from circuses, etc. And she made them look, and it's because I think she saw them this way, very, very quote unquote normal. But then she'll also have photographs of like a suburban couple in their backyard, and they look sort of terrifying. And I just like that juxtaposition that I see in her photographs. So, The Eye of the Beholder, after Dan Arbus. All human beauty is an aberration, a mirror trick drawing us into itself, into what is not. And what is desire? A lack invented by belief, a return to the thrill of the unfamiliar we recognize in an instant as ourselves. I know this in sight, in the click of a shutter revealing the barely real. Strip glamour of its thin veneer and you find something raw, elegant. You find the part in us we are all afraid of staring straight in the face. But I can't turn my back or blink. I feel myself connecting through captured light to a darkness that beckons, a darkness much less frightening than you fear. My subjects appear calm because they are. They compose themselves before my lens like hallucinations we have all shared, metaphors that suspend us between what we want to be and what we become. Try to picture yourself beyond denial. Run your hands across your average face, your normal body, and tell me how you differ from these miracles that always want to make you look away. The next book I published is called Nowhere All at Once. I've lived in Nebraska now for 25 years, which every time I say that astounds me. If you would have asked me 25 and a half years ago or tell me I would spend 25 years living in Nebraska, I would ask you what you are on, but so it is. And having lived in Nebraska and being from the East Coast and having lived a long time in the South, I've flown many, many times out of Lincoln through Chicago, across the Midwest. And this is that phenomena of looking down out out of a plane and seeing the landscape below you before you get too high above the clouds, and that Midwestern landscape, and thinking about that. Well, when you're up in a plane, if you're flying over Iowa, are you in Iowa? Or are you nowhere? Are you now here or whatever? So nowhere all at once. Nowhere all at once, and content for the moment to be so far above it all. The Rorschach of Midwestern landscape below you, repeating square, square, square. The world looks different when you're forced to face it from such heights and before dawn, in hours when you're accustomed to being lost in dreams, that other world you create to help you make sense of, to recover from. This world you now look down on, moving between destinations, each a place you have called home, meaning you realize something different each time, just as this no and every place you are now, this up in the air is where you always are. And thank you, everyone. And then I'll read the comments. I have to stay focused if I try to. I'm always wanting to read the chat comments, but I'll wait for those. The next poem is from a book called Meantime. It's mean/time. And I was trying to do something different in this book. I was using a lot more fragmentation. And I guess it was my attempt to be more experimental, because I think I tend to obviously be drawn to the human voice and speech and how speech can be heightened in a poem. But here I was trying to work with fragments more in at least some of the poems. And this title poem is certainly one of those. And so there are these somewhat disjointed stanzas with just little asterisks in between them. And so I'll just pause a little bit between the stanzas to give a little bit of an indication of that. Meantime. Desire always looks forward, craves and anticipates, reflecting a sky full of menace and promise. Sometimes longing transforms a mere glance into gaze, intermittent flashes into insight. There's no getting around all the things you never got around to doing. That is the nature of regret. Now, remorse, that is something else entirely. Happenstance just happens by. Today, you will follow the lure of a line, tomorrow, the seduction of a sentence, until inkling finds its way into utterance. It's not as if words have ever gotten you anywhere, at least anywhere you could stay, but still, but always. Always in some way between time, place, dream, memory, plans, plans, plans. Meanwhile, there's the time being that is or was your only life, which we miss because we are bent on desire for more than, other than. Is this the inevitable we were born for, the persistent urge for becoming more as we continue to move toward our own unbecoming? Mind a known habit you can't quite break. And this, the only world you live in and too often ignore. Our hearts full of desire, full of menace and promise, but still, but always, having the time of your life. Thank you. So let's see. Okay, I have a few more minutes. So I'll read a couple of the new poems now. And this was the toughest part for me to put together. I had originally been talking with the folks at the University of Nebraska Press about doing a selected poems, and they suggested very strongly that they wanted me to make it a new and selected poems. And so many of the poems here are fairly elegiac and I had been writing poems about my father who died about 2 years ago. And then this one is about a friend who committed suicide. He just was suffering from Parkinson's disease and just kind of couldn't deal with that. And so it's called Unspeakable Elegy. And, little New Orleans connection here for that there is an epigraph from a traditional New Orleans Mardi Gras Indian chant, the Wild Magnolias, who is accredited to, and it's called Brother John. And the phrase is Brother John is gone. It's a well-known song. There was the day, the world, then suddenly the news of you no longer in it. That world now one big less, one big hole, ripped in the fabric of the whole of it. There was the story of a lake, a place you loved, the banks of that lake, and you on those banks, and then you no longer. And I cannot make myself unimagine the moment of your unbeing. I can't not ask why or why that moment, or why not fight for your life, the world, the love of the lake, the people you loved who love you. I can't make myself make that love past tense. I can't not wish for you to wait, to hang on, if not forever, at least until that moment passes into another, so that other might pass into now, with you still being in our time being. At least I can imagine the possibility of beauty, air thick with honeysuckle, the sun brilliant, sky azure, perhaps a few stray clouds, all of it reflecting on the calm surface of that water, and bird song and flitter, the time being late spring and such beauty, thus common and likely. Although how unlikely it feels that summer has now arrived with you not here to see it, that the same sun is now beating down on those of us still missing you, your laughter, your blue-green eyes as witness to the world I know you loved as we did you and do, a world meaning us, meaning me, that wishes it could imagine you back into it, still and always with us, the whole you left forever now, part of the whole we are. And I'll end on one that's maybe a little more upbeat, and it's called Not Quite Nirvana. I have duct taped the Buddha's head to his rusting body and draped him with a string of plastic pearls pitched years ago from a Mardi Gras float into my clinging hands. The repairs do not appear to have marred the serenity of his repose. He continues to sit full lotus between the Solomon seal and sage. In the neighboring bed, a plastic flamingo has weathered another winter. Its pink less gauche than when I first planted it there, but still perched in kitschy splendor amidst a riot of daylilies and weeds, both the Buddha and I choose to accept with equanimity, or perhaps in my case, sloth. Content as I feel in this moment to do nothing but stand statue still, observing the tiny agitation of a hummingbird who flits, fleeting as a thought, into a pot of impatience, while on the rickety fence that contains all of us and nothing, a jay, blue as sky, squawks his raucous, unlikely Om. Thank you.
All right, that was amazing.
Thank you so much, Grace Bauer, and congratulations on your new and selected poems from University of Nebraska Press, Unholy Heart. That's a wonderful milestone for any poet to have a selected poems. So I really want to kind of mark that, you know, acknowledge that. Well, our next reader today, our next poet today is April Lee Fields. And if you have been watching, being with us over the year, you have seen a number of incredible performances. I call them performances because they are often connected with music, and there is an incredible soulfulness to April Lee Fields' work. I will now move to the official biography. April Lee Fields is a self-published author, a soulful songstress, and a spoken word artist. Through her writing, April takes her reader on an epic journey across continents, from small town America to hippie communes deep in the Australian outback, from the linoleum suburbs of her hometown in the UK to overgrown jungle temples deep in the heart of Asia. April's vivid descriptions of both the exotic and the mundane are entwined within a soulful observation that will transport the reader into a world of pure literary melodic magic. Reading from her new book, Wild Flower, please join me in welcoming April Lee Fields.
Hello, it sounds so nice having someone else read it, read the bio. Sounds official. All right, thank you for having me, Sandy. Yeah, my name is April Lee Fields. I go by she, her, and we're coming, this is my bass player Twigman today, and we are coming from New Orleans. From Nolans. So yeah, we've got a little kind of performance thing for you guys. We work from my book of poetry, Wildflower, and often put musical accompaniment behind it. I read the poems, sometimes I sing, and yeah, it's just a weird little poetic musical little shindig that we do. So I'm gonna do two pieces for you. This first one's called Wilding. Tripped out and scabby, puzzled passerbys, a melody so jazzy that it rests between the curvature of my eyes. War-torn and jealous, I see it before my life, your strife, how it nights, rips through the timelessness of years. You have a gift, yes, you, and even you, my dear. What's your story, scabby stranger? What rivers have you walked through? What abandonments have befallen upon the precious lips of a Lord? And what entanglements have lessened within the diligent prayer of the pure? You with your heels and your suede boots and tie, what secrets do you keep within that leather skin hide? Grab a coffee, a magazine, some one-on-one life, catch the tram, break the scenes, laugh wildly into the night. For I am also in abandon of a person left behind all those long years ago. All the aches and the pains of my youth, all those unnecessary, once needed fears, because we are free, you and I, and the world is laid out at our fingers. Which card will you play? Whilst you run amok of said land, and plans not, you may insist, but the idea's been there all along. Of your wealth, of your poverty, of your silence and your song. So break out in dance, cheers in remembrance with me, swim cold-watered frenzy, beckoning seas, goosebumps, just a sign of life tickled pink by bravery. I'm listening to the sounds all around. Yes, they're playing just for me. Take 3, 2, 1, take 1, 2, 3, shake it down, break it up. I am living intimately, ferociously, feverishly. I'm just a mutt, can't you see? I'm a wildling from the sun, drunk on the betterment of one's dreams. Thank you. All right, so that's more just like a little raw reading to you guys to give you an idea about the poetry. And next we're gonna go into Jason Twigman's gonna turn his bass up and we're gonna do a little like sound journey for you. It'll just be, this is all we're gonna do now. So just be like 10 minutes here. So like drop into the space, chill out, enjoy. We put a cover song with my poem. So. I'm gonna fight them all. A 7-nation army couldn't hold me back. They're gonna rip it off, taking my time right behind my back. And I'm talking to myself at night because I'm for hell. Oh, back and forth through my mind behind a cigarette. And the message coming through my eyes says, leave it alone. Leave it alone. Leave it alone. Leave it alone. Well, the air is familiar in its calamity, the scent of childhood. Well, it follows me towards indecisiveness, your touch, reminding me of presence. Grounding and reassuring an uninsured explorer. And my thoughts will see the winds of change howling at my skin. Distracting a heart unaccustomed to the warmth, and I'm somehow lost within. I don't want to hear about it. Well, every single one's got a story to tell. Everyone knows about it. It's from the Queen of England to the House of Hell. And if I catch a coming back my way, I'm gonna serve it to you. Oh, that ain't what you want to hear, but that is what I will do. And this thing's coming from my bones, says find a home, find a home, find a home, find a home. I'm stacking thoughts upon the pros and cons as I rustle through my purse in search of self-assurance. In search of self-assurance. Because I want to leap though the side is undecided. I beg for you to take my hand and just lead the way, though these wishes must remain within their silent cave, drowned out by crashing waves, by crashing waves. For I know that there are things one must do alone, I can't be shown, not even comforted. I just want you to understand that there's a deep-seated restlessness within that no love can ever tame. And though happiness I know not to be perched upon a hill somewhere amidst wish-dusted stars and rainbows, I know that there's a part of me that I must interpret on my own. I'm going to Wichita, far from this upper forevermore. I'm gonna walk the snow, feel that sweat drip out of every pore. And I'm bleeding and I'm bleeding and I'm bleeding right without the love. All these words are gonna be from me, and I will sing no more. I will sing no more. I will sing no more. Still there are parts of me that you're yet to see, my unsettled, so obsessive dreams, a definition of self it seems, a DIY of self-esteem, though your fragility, it breaks me in two. Because in some unannounced way, I have become your boogeyman. And when you try to dream at night, perhaps my outstretched hands will only hold you. An invisible, unforeseen fright. An unforeseen fright. I've gone nowhere in my self-reflection, no reconciliation or attuned connection, just to go and step in stones of misconception, scared of dying young. Scared of dying young. I've gone nowhere in my self-reflection, no reconciliation or attuned connection, just to go and step in stones of misconception, scared of dying young. Scared of dying young. I'm gonna fight them all. This nation army couldn't hold me back. I'm gonna walk them all, taking their time right behind my back. And I'm talking to myself at night because I can't forget. Ooh, back and forth through my mind beyond the cigarette. And the message coming through my eyes says, leave it alone. Leave it alone. Leave it alone. Leave it alone. You gotta leave it alone. Thank you. My eyes went so watery and my voice went out. And I don't know what happened there, but I tried. Thank you guys so much for having me. That was April Fields and Twigmet on. We also have a little album called Story and Song that we put together, which has like Wildflower. Yeah, she's got it. It's got wildflower on it. And I just want to quickly plug something real quick before I get out of here. But I also have this big giant book, a memoir that I put together that Sandy also has. Yes. And I'm currently in the process of splitting it down into 10 short booklets, like 10 short stories. So those will be released coming up next month. Like every month I'll do a booklet. So yeah, thank you guys so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Well, folks, what did we say? Soulful. Yeah. I mean, you know, you don't use the adjective lightly. You live up to the adjective. And Twigman is with 2 G's, not 1. The autocorrect did something weird when I put it in. So sorry about that. April Lee Fields, thank you so much. Again, the new book is Wildflower. And you heard it here. You can also get it on CD. Thank you. Always an experience when you're with us. So appreciate it. See you next time. All right, my friends, we move from New Orleans to the Southwest to one of my new pals, one of my pals of the pandemic. You know, honestly, you know, I say that like laughing, but really the connections that we've been able to make have been extraordinary, and I'm honestly supremely grateful for them. So and Jules and John Roche in Placitas were really instrumental in helping me have a vision for how Cultivating Voices live poetry could move forward, because they're the host of a very popular, well-attended, beloved reading series, Cactus, as well as Jules is the founder of her poetry playhouse. Oh, I wish I'd come up with that. So I'm so happy to have you on the New Book Showcase, and let me shift now to the official biography. Jules Nyquist is the founder of Jules Poetry Playhouse, which actually puts out the best mask you will ever have. A Jules Poetry Playhouse mask and masks from your new book. Oh my God, brilliant. Jules is the founder of Jules Poetry Playhouse in Placitas, New Mexico, a place for poetry and play. It's in the title. She took her MFA in writing and literature from Bennington College, Vermont, and her latest book is Atomic Paradise, an exploration of growing up in the Cold War and living in the land of enchantment, surrounded by nuclear secrets. She is the co-editor of the Poets Speak series. I've got the Hers anthology right up there behind me. And with the award-winning Hers anthology, and co-hosts, as I mentioned, the Cactus Monthly Reading Series. Please check out all the information on her website, julesnyquist.com. Welcome, my dear friend, and thank you so much for being with us today.
Oh, thank you, Sandy. It's a pleasure. And just your series is amazing. So thank you for hosting this and giving this opportunity to everybody. And I'm just, Grace and April have been amazing so far. So I'm just honored to be in the company of these esteemed poets. So yeah, I'm going to be reading from Atomic Paradise, and you can find it on Amazon, or if you want a copy, signed copy from myself, you can go to poetryplayhouse.com or julesnyquist.com. and find it there as well. So I'm going to do a series of poems. I'm going to open up with a poem that is kind of in honor of the Nasty Women as well. I love this anthology. I've got a Nasty Woman pantoum in there. I mean, a lot of our friends are in there, so it's wonderful. I'm also a big fan of form. I write a lot of sestinas. And this poem I'm going to open up with is called Radium Girls. And it's a sestina. It's kind of for those brave, nasty women that really took their life in their hands when radium was discovered, and they were fearless and courageous. So this is for them. Radium Girls. They promised you the glamour kiss and more money than you'd ever know, a chance to be an artist with a watch on everyone's wrist, a cause to be proud of, the glow of radium dials, a poison of occupational radiance, poised to point your paintbrushes for a kiss on your lips, that finer point, a better glow on your face. You painted unknowingly your fingernails, your toes, a manicure that causes you heartache for the love of the art. You were mistaken. Self-luminous art disintegrates your marrow, hollow poisons cake your eyelids, yet you see fireworks cause cataract meteors to burst, flash and kiss your retinas, radiant light emitting knowledge like a forbidden apple, a glow, worm-like heat. Ionic energy glows with phenomenal brilliance and ecstasy. Art in its deadly fullest knowledge reveals the secrets of Marie Curie, not poison, but a miracle cure for everything, a radiant kiss of luck for bath salts, chocolate, radithor, bottled water, because water is better than radium beer. Pause with your man at the Radium Palace Hotel. It attracts the glow of 2,500 customers a year. The price kissed up to 3,000 times the worth of gold. An artist could splurge while working in radium. It's delicate poison like a lover that seduces without protection. You know you shouldn't, but you do. What do you know that could possibly go wrong? You didn't sue because only later you found out it was poison to ingest like a bitter apple. That warm glow on your face, your teeth falling out, your art becoming a frail old woman after being kissed too many times by her lover. You knew all along the glow was temporary, caused by cruel greed. Cheap women, artists like you, used up, and only the men got autopsies. You kissed away your future. Okay, so with that, I'm going to read a poem about Robert Oppenheimer, who is part of my fascination for this whole nuclear history. He was a brilliant physicist, as we know, and he was also a poet. So this is a little about the life of Robert and my attraction to that. It's called Poet and Physicist. Is it destiny that I am drawn to this man of science, of art? Living at the edge of mystery, the brilliance of stars are his, their internal radiation, logical structure, feeling of beauty, excitement of science. Oppie is interested in everything. He coexists with all at once. An afternoon meeting with his students lasts far into the night. Electrodynamics, cosmic rays, astrophysics, nuclear physics, Hindu classics, Homer and Plato read in the original Greek, missing the last ferry from the bay back to Berkeley. The fog of the universe surrounds unanswered questions. The blue of abstract theory and institutions and intuitions lands on hard, crude methods of theoretical physics. His natural ability with horses gives him relief at his New Mexico ranch, took him on rides in the wilderness. He tames the wild as one breaks a horse, inspires us into the next great new adventure where we climb the rocks, sit in the cold dark and count stars. He shows me how ordinary minerals like uranium What if he had been a geologist? Can be split with neutrons to become extraordinary, life-changing, enough so that I pack my belongings in my car and head out to my unknown. Appy was a young scientist following his teacher, a poet called to be a shaman. I am a midlife woman, curious just to be here in this presence of the New Mexico landscape of majesty, of responsibility. I am fearless of destiny. And this next one's about the Trinity site, and most of you probably know the bomb was detonated for the test in New Mexico. It's called Obelisk. Tourists approached the Trinity site. Cars lined up, filed in to circle around the shrine to the atomic age. Not sure how to react, tourists snap photos, smile, walk the fence line. Photos of the mushroom cloud hang on the chain link fence, displayed especially for this twice-a-year open house on the White Sands Missile Range. The black lava obelisk marks the nuclear eruption, a symbol of the ancient volcanoes here. I wonder if modern chrome would be more appropriate for a military marker. There are t-shirts, piped in music, a hot dog stand, books for sale. Transportation of the golf cart for seniors or disabled rides them to the monument. The rest of us walk the desert dirt path, think about the scorched earth nestled in the Jornada de Muerto Mountains, our journey of the dead men. Spanish Inquisition soldiers retreated from the Pueblo Indians in 1680, the Pueblo Revolt. Should we abandon our nuclear visions as well? Let the yucca overtake what we sucked out of the earth? Yell for help, Socorro. Your name means help in Spanish. What have we done? 100 miles back home in Albuquerque, I feel that missing hole from that place stuck inside me, empty and hellish. The bomb sucked up the good, sent it raining down in trinitite and fallout, still there decades later. I take a walk, reconnect with trees, flowers, anything green and living. Okay, so another thing about New Mexico, the Japanese internment camps were here and elsewhere around the US. So there was one in Santa Fe, and there's just a small little white boulder in a park that's very hard to find. And there's also the Hotel Sheraton, which was on one of the sites. So this is called Hotel Sheraton Santa Fe. The woman walks to her car in late afternoon. Haiku in her book sleeps. Fear of Japs forced the men here. American citizen, his son served in the war. Where were the towers, barbed wire fences, the guns? Men in suits at her home took her father away. Children shipped off with the women, helplessness, distracted by writing, performing theater, make-believe, snow so pretty on the Sangre de Cristos. Family businesses collapse, no one to carry it. He speaks 2 languages, is considered dangerous. The guard sleeps at the door, unafraid. The men chant librettos, copied by hand. 4,000 men aching, missing wives. Today, a couple walks hand in hand to dinner. Hotel restaurant prides itself on welcoming all guests. No plaque or sign to be found for a marker. A white boulder a mile away off Canyon Road near a park. Paintings in the hotel glimmer. Painted makeshift theater walls fade. The Yoshimura family goes back to Japan. And the camp that was in Santa Fe was a men's camp. And there was a lot of art, and I discovered a lot of haiku. So you can check that out. This book also covers not just New Mexico, but worldwide, and kind of the nuclear obsession. This is another sestina called Milan, and it's about China. Chinese desert flower unfolds to blossom Mao's A bomb. His wish for a bomb, a nuclear weapons test base, China's, is 7 times bigger, blossoms over the US test base in the Nevada desert. The great leap forward unfolds. Starving workers eat the wild flowers. Milan is named for a desert flower. Rising from the ashes of the future bomb, a new town of 10,000 people unfolds. With help from the Soviets, China rises her pioneer ashes out of her desert to assemble thousands of workers, blossoms to resurrect Chang Ho's 15th century, blooms fleets of sailing treasure ships, flowers spreading inventions of 2nd century paper desert, origami birds, gunpowder bombs. Once the largest navy in the world, China rises again, magnetic stones, compass-like unfold to tell her future. Mao's wish unfolds, an A-bomb test within 10 years to blossom with 3 months to spare. The People's Republic of China joins the nuclear club on October 16, 1964. A white rose flowers in history. The giant physics experiment blows up, forced to bloom from the Lac Nord desert. Testing blossoms for 32 years with desert detonations. The first one, codenamed 596, unfolds. It's named after June 1959, the time when the bomb given to China from the Russians and who blossomed in trade for Tibetan uranium turned into a wilting flower, suddenly cut off by Khrushchev. So China builds her own bomb, lighter and better than the US. Desert winds and Chinese fortunes willed to unfold. At what price blooms Milan in the parched desert? So that's a sestina. And I'm going to end this with this last poem is probably about 5 minutes. So I'm going to end with that. And it's another sestina. It's a double sestina, which has 12 stanzas with 12 end tellutons repeating. And it's called the Decaying Nuclear Bomb Double Sestina. So it starts out with 12 lines, then 11, then 10, and works its way down. And you're going to notice the last word in every line is bomb. And I did that because in my epigraph, I'm saying there have been 2,053 nuclear explosions worldwide in the 20th century. The United States conducted around 1,054 nuclear tests by official count between 1945 and 1992, including 216 atmospheric, underwater, and space tests. So I think you'll be able to just hear the bombs and all those tests as we go through this sestina poem. White is an American bomb. When there was no bomb, before I was born, the bomb was here. 2 decades of bomb and the war, the way to win a bomb, wake up the Americans in denial of bombing until Pearl Harbor. The bomb woke up the giant beast, a bomb project assigned to General Leslie Bomb Groves, codename MED, short for Bomb Manhattan Engineer District, inconspicuous bomb funding, pulling strings to secure more bombs when no new weapons, like an unproved atomic bomb, ever won a war. This bomb was in a race to beat the Nazis, a bomb to save America, a bomb to impress the world, a bomb for manifest destiny, a bomb with a AAA supply rating, a victory bomb on a mission with many star generals, bombing scientists with pressure to perform bombing feats of atomic energy, an unpronounceable bombing horror taken away from Oppenheimer's grand bomb vision of fission and cracking the atomic bomb code, the nuclear energy gobbled up by a bombardment of a military obsession of bomb ego power, a white man's Jesus, this bomb to save the world with a hard J bomb that sticks in your mouth, a salty bomb taste that turns to grit, sucked up bomb lies in the stem of a mushroom cloud bomb in the middle of the desert, Flashes of bomb among the yucca screams, unspoken strips of bomb fallout like a stripped up falling bomb. They took it and used it on people. A bomb scientists naively wanted for testing. A bomb to show off to the Japanese. Countdown to a bomb not offending anyone. An atomic marvel to bomb away our funk. Put on cakes. Mrs. Bomb beauty contests and bikini atolls. American bombs invented by us. We rule the bomb. We are the bomb. In control of the propaganda. Sell the bomb to the people. The way a war is won by bombs and not really hurting the civilians. We lie. Bombs dropped on women and children, atomic bombs and fire bombs, as if we needed more bombs, more radiation. The neutron bombs dropped on us, the teeth falling out, bombing, the bigger is better H bombs, and how many more mega bombs? A year before I was born, the largest nuclear bomb ever detonated was by the Soviet Union, the Tsar Bomba. In 1961, 50 megatons, an insane bomb blast, 3,333 times more powerful than the little boy bomb. The bomb felt in our unconscious, a womb-forming bomb, blasting mothers with radiation, satellite combing bombs. 1979, the next country going rogue with a bomb is Israel. Hidden by President Carter, the bomb does not exist if we can't track it. The bomb lies to all of us. Truman lies to Oppenheimer. The bomb hates the son of a bitch physicist, loves the Marvel bomb, Reagan and the Star Wars project, more bombs in space, test bombs underwater, the underground bomb Nevada fallout, over 690,000 American civilians, bomb infested grounds of uranium, the downwinder bombs, the produced plutonium, aluminum, bombing, the bomb club, Russia, US, France, China, UK, bombs, Pakistan, India, North Korea, Israel, all bomb testing nations. Who's next to get the bomb? Nuclear power plants, the new energy way, bombing, safely humming along until they don't. Bomb, the Fukushimas, the Chernobyls, insatiable lust for bombs, the pit houses lined up in rows, bombs, not in my backyard bombs, finding funding even today to stockpile more bombs, never giving it up just in case bombs, sitting there with unused codes. When is the end of the atomic bomb? It's still going on, the bomb. So thank you. I hope all of you can explore this book and go on that nuclear ride. And hopefully I will live to see the day where we don't have the bomb.
Jules, I've heard you read the poem. I've heard you read that poem before, and today it's still it lacked nothing to hear it again. The literal bombardment of bombs is so powerful in getting the message across from your new book, Atomic Paradise. The juxtaposition, the irony. And I always think about the font too. The font, I love the idea of the font, like the font being so whimsical and yet the whole thing being so devastating at the same time. So thank you for this profound book that tells part of that history. That is
Thank you. It's
so
hard to read it. Well, every time I read it, I kind of
yeah,
it's just, but it needs to be said, and I'm just so glad that the words are getting out there. So thank you for listening.
yeah, thank you. Again, the book is Atomic Paradise. Well, we move from Atomic Paradise to another area of the United States, Florida. As Elizabeth Bishop said, the state with the prettiest name. To our final reader for today, Denise Duhamel. I got to throw my little anecdote in. I have loved Denise's poetry for years and years and years, and because we also have a connection, which is that she and I, a few years apart, studied with the same professor at Emerson College. And he's Bill Knott, an iconoclast of a poet, if there ever was one. And so I'd always wanted to meet her, and it's been really great to connect with you as a person, even though I've been connecting with you through your poetry for quite some time. So Denise, let's go to your formal bio. Denise Duhamel's most recent book of poetry is Second Story. I adore this cover so much, from Pittsburgh, very recently out in the world. Her other titles include Scald, Blowout, Kaching, 2 and 2, Queen for a Day, Selected and New Poems, The Star-Spangled Banner, and Kinky. A recipient of fellowships from the Guggenheim Foundation and the National Endowment for the Arts, Duhamel teaches in the MFA program at Florida International University in Miami. Welcome, my dear Emerson sister.
Thank you, Sandy. It is so great to be here. And thank you to the other readers. I absolutely loved your poems, Grace, Jules, and April. Thank you so much. And thank you too to Kim and Don for setting it up and making it really easy to get here. So I appreciate it. And of course, thank you to everyone who's here and listening on a Sunday afternoon. It's fabulous. I'm going to start with the first poem from my book, which is called Folkways. I live on the second story. I don't know if you can, I do live on the second story, and you can see the sea from my window, which is pertinent to this poem. Folkways. I see the sea getting closer. I read we'll soon run out of drinking water. I floss the steak out of my teeth. I should be a vegan. Even the teenager told me so. She said I had the right sandals and earrings. I step up the plane, look up my carbon footprints. Greenland is melting due in part to my recent Google search. All my dead iPhones, along with scraps of bologna and turkey bones, add to the landfill populated by vultures in some countries, child scavengers in others. I buy South American fruit in North American groceries. Sustainability is a hoax, the article says, but I recycle anyway, cycle instead of drive when I can. Emma evacuates Santa Barbara, wildfire in her rearview mirror, a laptop covered in ash, and a few books in her trunk. I say goodbye to my furniture and clothes whenever I evacuate for yet another hurricane, decide what to bring, what to leave behind. My friend's favorite joke, what is the population of Bombay? Wait a second, let me check my watch. When I was young and naive, I had a foster child from Bangladesh. This was before I knew how much the charity's CEO was making. I was an adjunct in New York City with 3 jobs, but I knew I was rich by comparison. I could pretend I was a good person. My sanitized love and concern reflected in the drawings the child sent. I started to volunteer instead at the Catholic Worker, ladling soup and oatmeal into plastic bowls. The homeless smelled like I would have smelled if I didn't have running water or a toothbrush or quarters for the laundromat. Eileen Miles slept outside their New York City apartment with the homeless, but was sure not to use any resources the displaced needed. Miles took their own food so that the truly needy could get first dibs on dumpster bagels. Until you have no toilet paper, you can't imagine how precious it is. No tampons or moisturizer or shampoo. I live in Florida now, where a graying man makes his home on the beach. He is a war vet, my neighbors say, but I am not sure which war. There have been so many. He showers where others simply rinse off sand. He waited out Irma in a shelter while I drove away with friends. Now he sleeps near the restrooms in the park and shuffles down to the surf, takes his morning swim. When he catches me leaving him half a roasted chicken, he says thanks for the delivery. He says maybe his luck is changing. Maybe one day soon the ocean will come to him. And this next poem, thanks. It's so cool. It's weird to like see but not hear. Well, every writer feels that. This next poem is called Poker Hands. The day you left us, you almost forgot to wave goodbye as you followed the anesthesiologist to the operating room, scuffing along in non-skid slipper socks, one of those surgical caps on your head. You were going to a sterile and cold place when Mom said, "Wait a minute, what about my kiss?" You came back and then turned and waved goodbye with both hands, hands that could pull out pies from the oven without pot holders, hands that could shovel and make snowballs without gloves. All those years of baking, from the freezer to the proof rack to the ovens, made your hands what they were. Your poker hands, which dealt the cards for pitch and 21. You were serious when you played, tapping the table so we'd pay attention. You had nicks and cuts and burns you shrugged off, just like you shrugged off the surgery. We were so sure you would come around, sore, yes, depressed, maybe. We'd read up on all the side effects of the procedure, but you were ready, fearless man of Bauer and Vicks, the only medicines you really believed in. I know it's too late, but I'm sorry I was a jerk so much of the time. I'm sorry I was such a spoiled brat. You only bought one luxury your whole life, a leather lounge chair, while I wanted a guitar, a new coat like the other girls, brand name jeans, a bike, and money for the movies. I grabbed everything with my weak hands that turn blue in a cold room, ricochet when the faucet runs too hot, hands that get chapped doing simple things like dishes. Now that you are no longer here, sometimes my hands are your hands when they are empty and still and grateful, when I fold them to pray the way you did, when I help someone like you helped me the morning I woke up with a hangover after a high school party. You poured me a glass of orange juice and plucked a pickle from the jar and put it on a saucer. The combination worked, our very own father and daughter dance. Soon after, we went to the airport so I could board my first plane to travel farther than you or Mom had ever been. I stooped, having second thoughts, my paisley suitcase suddenly too heavy. Mom told me we could turn around, that I could stay home, and you told Mom, honey, you've got to let her go. After the agent took my ticket, I turned and waved, my pudgy fingers, my purple polish already starting to chip. Then I followed the other travelers to the rest of my life, scuffing along in my sneakers, one of your baseball caps on my head. Thanks. Thank you. This next poem is called Wednesday, April 29th, 1992. The first night of the Rodney King riots, my then boyfriend convinced me to stay home, though I wanted to go to the Nuyorican Poets Cafe, where there was a protest open mic. It could get violent, he said. Because I was somewhat self-actualized, I refrained from calling him a coward. Men, I thought, can be afraid too. I was confused as he seemed so much more political than I was. He could name all the American senators and battle dates that were smudges of scrambled time in my brain. He had lived through a coup in another country. He wasn't willing to join in demonstrations and, earlier in the day, predicted the looting that would happen in LA. I'm not blaming him, but blaming myself for not going alone, for all the times I've stayed quiet, tucked my neck deep in my collar, the revolution is just around the corner, the guillotine and third estate. My boyfriend and I stayed in playing Scrabble, feasting on vanilla Sara Lee cake. Thanks, thank you, thanks. This next poem is called Howl, and it is based on Allen Ginsberg's Howl, and I just basically stole his syntax and used it as scaffolding. Howl. I saw the best minds of my generation, i.e. Fauci, Birx, undermined by Trump, doctors hungry for truth, dragging themselves through inane press conferences at 5, trying to fix the prez's anger. Angels with hip replacements and fashionable scarves holding up graphs, making predictions, scientific dynamos trying to break through to give us light. who, in spite of political tatters and hollow men, sat up zooming in the virtual darkness of cold hard facts floating across cable news host desks, contemplating death rates, who bared their brains to the World Health Organization and saw Monday night riots, angels staggering in Lafayette Square, flashbangs illuminating, who passed by unimaginative reporters with radiant, cool eyes, pleading with Americans not to drink bleach, tragedy among the non-scholars of pseudoscience, who were expelled from news conferences by a crazy and obscene know-nothing on the whims of a numbskull, who cowered in green rooms, undercut, retrieving their speeches from wastebaskets and listening to the terrible thump of Trump through the wall, who got their words twisted, regurgitated, returning to Joe Scarborough with a plan for keeping nursing home patients and prisoners safer, flattening the curve in New York, who urged the closing of hotels and theme parks, Paradise Church, shopping malls with mannequins' torsos glowing night after night with dreams of capitalism, now a waking nightmare of alcohol wipes, cock and endless balls no longer welcome in gentlemen's clubs, strippers shuddering, clouds of debt, no spinning on poles, no dollars, Canadian or American, all the motionless world of highways with no cars. Peter Pans playing solitaire on their iPads, plots and more plots dug up in cemeteries, drunken, safer at home moms and dads banging pans from windows and rooftops in honor of first responders who were busy at work, their kids home from school, storefronts boarded up, blinking traffic lights, ambulances, but not much else, sun and moon and tree vibrations and the spring dusks of Minneapolis and Louisville and Buffalo. Until George Floyd, until the protests began, the best minds of the next generation chanting, demanding sanity from the worst King America, who is clearly out of his mind. Thank you, thanks. Thanks. It's so weird to be reading this like during the trial too. I mean, you know, sometimes when poetry actually becomes like in the news and then you publish it and then you follow it. Anyway, I said to say that aloud. I realized it as I was reading it. And then I'll end with this poem, which is the last poem in Second Story. And thank you, Sandy, again for inviting me. And thank you all very much for coming. Dear memory, what have you done with my keys? I blame you, though it's hard to hold a grudge these days because I usually don't remember why I was angry in the first place. I look at a person, sure she's done me wrong, though the inciting incidents are lost. Former students seem familiar, but their names disperse like cigarette smoke, blowing towards a stool where I once drank myself sick. Now I'm not even sure what city that bar was in. The welcoming pink neon letters, another cloud, as though I'm looking at tiny prints without my reading glasses. I was on a pink cloud when I first stopped drinking. In fact, I once looked up at the moon, weeping in gratitude. So there, I do recall something. I was walking across the Brooklyn Bridge in an ex's sweatpants, though I'm not sure anymore of his name or if I ever gave those sweatpants back. I'm usually halfway through a movie on Netflix when I realize I've already seen it, probably in an old-fashioned freestanding theater, perhaps a matinee or a midnight screening, perhaps a popcorn bucket on my lap, that is, if I wasn't on some fad diet. Did I take my pain pill or not? I'm drinking water, but not sure I can detect that bad taste all the way back on my tongue. Maybe I have been drinking more water than I thought. Is it time to go to the gynecologist again? The office usually sends me a reminder postcard, but today I'm holding a letter from the breast center saying it's time again for my mammogram. I usually get a prescription from the gynecologist about a month beforehand. This is how it's been the last few years. I wonder if my doctor is retired or dead. I would call him, but I have forgotten his name. It begins with an S, and I think I remember the exit. I look through the stack of business cards I saved for moments such as this, but no card for him. I go to take out the recycling just moments after I took out the recycling. I stand at the fridge, its door ajar, the cold light bulb, an idea for a poem which I've also forgotten, a sublime dream that woke me in the middle of the night, a sublime dream I was sure I'd never forget. Ah, here is my key ring, but this gold one with the big square head. What lock could it possibly open? Thank you. Thanks. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Denise. And those poems they're such anthems to so many things. And I just so appreciate your voice and how you integrate the personal with the political, of course, as Adrienne Rich says, and do it in a way that allows all of us more access to how we can think about these things as well. So thank you for your just astounding work. The new book, because it is a new book showcase, Second Story. Thank you. And folks, we've heard today from 4 phenomenal women poets, and we started our time together with Grace Bauer from Unholy Heart. We moved on to April Lee Fields with Wild Flower, accompanied by Twigman. You heard the history often unspeakable, but spoken in these poems from Atomic Paradise from Jules Nyquist. And again, from Denise Duhamel, Second Story. Before I make some closing remarks and give you a few heads up about things upcoming, how about if you'd unmute for a moment and just give these poets your deep appreciation.
Bravissimo!
Yes,
Snap, 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 brava!
Wonderful afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Well, thank you, everybody, for being here also, the audience. And again, one more plug. One of you is actually going to be receiving as a gratitude gift this phenomenal anthology, The Nasty Women Poets, an unapologetic anthology of subversive verse, today for being here live in the audience with us. Well, we have many more special events coming up in April, but just a few. I just want to give you a few highlights of things I'm just hoping to attend just this week. Tomorrow night in Edmonton, in Alberta, Canada, Max Vanderstein hosts Haven House. Tuesday night, it looks like I'm going to try for a triple header. Rattlecast number 89 with host Tim Green. Such a great host. Oh, if you've not listened to Rattlecast, please do. Featuring phenomenal Kim Adenizio. Okay, I don't even need to give an adjective for Kim. And Denise just let me know that she'll be reading on Tuesday night as well with one of her co-conspirators, as I like to call them, Julie Marie Wade, who will also be joining us later this year in our new book showcase. Her new book, Skirted, has just been released. Michael Collier and Monica Sock reading in the O.B. Hardiman series at the Folger Shakespeare Library in Washington, D.C. with host Terry Cross Davis, whom will also be hosting in a new book showcase later this year for her book, A More Perfect Union. I went to her launch. It was incredible. Wednesday is the passing of the laureateship here in Washington State from our absolutely astounding poet laureate, 2-term poet laureate, Claudia Castro Luna, who joined us for our Laureate Love Fest in February. We'll be passing on the laureate, the laurel to Rena Priest from the Lummi Nation. We're very, very, very proud of the heritage of our laureates here in Washington State. And Thursday, I try never to miss if I can, in Limerick, Ireland, it's Lime Square, with your hosts, Dor Seifer and Lauren Donovan. That used to be the series, Not the Time to Be Silent, a much beloved series that after 1 year transitioned to a new format, and it's now Lime Square. And Saturday, you can join me on the Collectibles Lesbian Trading Card series with Headmistress Press and co-founder Risa Denenberg and Mary Miriam. This Saturday featuring, listen to this dynamic duo, Jessica Jacobs and Nicole Brown. Well, then Sunday, folks, we're back here on Cultivating Voices live poetry for the 30th anniversary celebration with Slappering Hall Press with co-founder Margot Tafstever and poets from the press. And again, mark your calendars a little ahead, April 25th, we're back with our new book showcase featuring Patricia Clark, Seymour Main, Elaine Nadal, and Leslia Newman. And finally, to round out the month, on Tuesday, April 27th, that's a Tuesday, a very special tribute reading to Evan Boland on the anniversary of her passing last year. We are incredibly honored that we will have with us from Poetry Ireland, poet in residence, Catherine Ann Cullen. Jessie Lendenny, founder of Salmon Poetry, will be joining us to talk about what it was like to be an early publisher of Evan Boland's poems before she had books. And Ray Ball will be joining us from Anchorage, Alaska, and you'll have an opportunity to read in the live open mic, reading Evan's work or your own inspired by her. We have a very large Irish contingency, so it's very, very important to, I feel like, honor Evan's work in that way that Evan crossed the Irish American cultures, and I certainly am very moved by her work. I study her work a lot, so that's what April will be like. Well, thanks for joining us today, everyone, and thanks, of course, always to Don Krieger, poet extraordinaire, timekeeper, tech keeper, and the wizard of cultivating voices, and to Kim Ports Parsons, who so just passionately helps promote all of the poets here on Cultivating Voices live poetry. And also a shout out, I try to do it every week, to my sister, co-founder of Cultivating Voices live poetry, Elizabeth Ann, my sister. Well, I'm sending out peace to those of our members who will begin to experience Ramadan, which begins tomorrow, and sending out peace to all of you. Well, that's it for today, my friends. I bid you ahoy, safe travels, and keep writing.